Hey guys, Poro here with another video, and this time I have a super special one for you all. As many of you know, I do a lot of recaps for pro League of Legends games, and one of the more notable parts of those recaps are the player ratings. After every game, I give every player a rating out of 10 that shows roughly how well I thought they played. With these ratings though come a lot of disagreement. Player performance can often be subjective, and there are plenty of people, both more and less knowledgeable than me, who look at my rating for a specific player in a game and think it's incorrect. One of the biggest reasons why this happens is because the rating philosophy I use is a bit different from most. In my opinion, all ratings for virtually anything should start in the middle and then branch outwards, as a middle of the pack rating should be indicative of an average performance. I actually got this rating style partially from album reviewing culture, where you'll almost never see a music critic give an album an extremely high or extremely low score, and most general consensus scores will float in the middle in a kind of bell curve structure. I actually have a music reviewing account, and you can see from the chart how the philosophy looks in action from the over 8,000 songs and albums I've given ratings for, and despite the fact that I only really go out of my way to listen to albums I think I'll like a lot, I've only managed to accrue 3 lonely 10 out of 10s after years. In the same vein, people noticed that I didn't give out a single 10 out of 10 performance in all of Worlds 2025. Some players got close. Rookie's Orianna against T1 and Faker's Mel against AL both received a 9 out of 10 from me, a mark that means I think they played a phenomenal game worthy of immense praise. However, the fact that we saw many great performances from many players, yet all of them eluded a perfect score once I swapped to the 10-point system, was enough for people to question if it's even possible. While I want to inform you all that yes, it is in fact possible for a player to receive a 10 out of 10 in my eyes, and it's happened many times. I've only been using the 10-point system for a couple of months though, so the frame of reference for the viewers isn't there. That's what this video is for. I want to show you all 5 games, one from each role, of a performance that was great enough that it would have received a perfect mark in my scoring system if it happened today. Before I start though, I want to briefly go over how my rating system works exactly for the people who are unfamiliar. It's actually quite simple to understand. At the start of the game, every player has a 5 out of 10. It's right in the middle, as nothing has happened yet, which means nobody has done anything good or bad that could have determined the result of the game. Something I do not consider for this starting score is the draft. While it's true that some players may have requested a champion so horrible that it makes the game impossible, I won't punish a player for something I can't know, and in this case, I don't know who on the team or the coaching staff was the one who suggested the champion to begin with. How bad a draft is won't negatively affect an individual player. I operate under the assumption that every single pick locked in was a team-wide decision that everyone is equally responsible for. To say that draft has zero influence over the ratings would be incorrect though. When the game starts, I use the drafts to set an expectation for every player. I assume that anyone who is in a pro game has the ability to play their champion and fulfill their role to a strong degree, and therefore my expectation for what that champion should be able to do within a game becomes the baseline. For example, imagine if one top laner picked Jax and the other top laner picked Camille. This matchup in theory is incredibly Jax favored. The idea is that Camille is never the one who can dictate when a trade will happen, because a lot of Camille's damage is loaded into her Q2. The way the matchup would play out is that Jax would hold his E, the spell that blocks auto attack damage, until after Camille casted her Q1, which would mean that Jax can always block all of the Q2 damage, thus rendering Camille's most important trading spell useless. Because of this and other various factors, Jax is considered winning into Camille. What this means for my ratings is that I go into the game expecting Jax to have a lead over Camille in lane. If Camille exits lane down 15 CS or down a plate, I won't penalize the Camille player for it. This also means I expect the Jax player to generate this lead, and I'll be waiting for that advantage to occur. Let's say that we're 20 minutes into the game with no major teamfights having occurred yet, and the Jax is dead even with the Camille. This would mean that either the Jax player did something wrong, or the Camille player was playing out of her mind, or some combination of both. What I'll do is examine how the lane phase went, and try to determine which of those two it was, and I'll assign ratings accordingly. If Jax took 2 bad trades in lane and gave Camille an advantage that she used to neutralize the entire lane phase, I would consider it a mark against the Jax and would lower his rating. This is how the core of my rating system works. Do something that progresses the game to victory past just what I expect and you gain points. Do something that directly contributes to your team potentially losing the game and you lose points. It's a simple premise that can get incredibly nuanced and complicated depending on what actually happens in the game, such as teamfight execution, objective setups, lane rotations, and mechanics, but that's all it is. That's why sometimes you'll see an ADC who technically played a perfect game and ended 9-0, only to end up with a 6 or a 7 on my rating score. For the most part, I expect marksmen to deal the most damage and have the most kills, and because this is an expectation, marksman players won't get any bonus credit from me for doing that. I do try to give credit here and there for individual plays that impress me though. If the enemy team has a lot of dive options and their game plan is to use all of their tools to one-shot backline, and then the target marksman or mage spaces and navigates the teamfights in such a great way that they manage to survive or absorb a lot of pressure through all of those tools, That's something that subverts my expectations, and therefore will make me want to score those players higher. If a jungler picks Xin Zhao, a champion who should be strong enough to make something productive happen early, and they go for 6 dives, 3 of which look difficult to execute, and all 6 end up generating a positive advantage for the team, I'll want to score that Xin Zhao highly because while I expect Xin Zhao to be ahead early, I never would have expected the jungler, or maybe the laners too, to have prepared that level of foresight with waves and positioning to make all of those dives work. At the end of the day, it's obviously a flawed system. It relies a lot on subjectivity since it's my eyes and brain that are looking at everything that's going on, and sometimes I'll simply miss some details or I'll have a read on the 2 comps wrong. A random example I can pull out is that I totally missed Karia's Merkwolf flank on Nico in the game. I didn't see it until after the game happened, and in the moment I didn't actually award Karia for his creativity when I definitely should have. For those worried, I did in fact catch it before releasing the video and subsequently raised his rating, but I just wanted to point out that I definitely do miss things. Regardless, it's the best rating system I can personally come up with, and it's a rating system I like to use. It's a brutal system where the vast majority of performances will end in a 4, 5, or 6, and only very rarely will a player receive extreme scores like a 2 or an 8. I do think though that this is a hidden advantage of my scoring system as well. When a great performance does happen, and I feel like I can give it an especially high rating, I feel like it makes that game all the more special and memorable. With that brief description out of the way though, it's time to get to why you're all here to begin with, and it's to see what that rare perfect score looks like. I've seen people wonder if certain roles have it easier than others, so to show you all that it's definitely possible regardless of who you are, I picked out one game from each of the 5 roles to show you all today. I'm not saying that this is the best game I've seen from the role, or that the players in these games made 0 mistakes, but regardless, I would certainly feel fine saying that the performances I'm about to show you are about as close as players have gotten to perfect League of Legends.
Can be very strong in team fights with the Callista's mid-game power. They look to change it up though. The Rumble hover, and the other pick here that is sticking out like a sword.
I honestly wish I could push this one further into the video because the game is just that good, but I can't bring myself to do this in any other order than in regular role order, so this is the first one you all get to see. 2024 LCK Spring Grand Finals, Genji vs T1, Game 1, Keen on Rumble. This game is remembered for many things, but probably the most important one is that this is, to this day, considered the highest quality game the world has ever seen in the history of League. Whether you agree or disagree is totally fine, and I don't even think I necessarily agree, but this one is definitely up there if nothing else. Before getting into the game, some extra context is needed. In spring 2024, LCK was considered a 3-horse race, with the best teams being Genji, T1, and HLE. This finals was expected to be incredibly fierce, with the 2 teams having completely different styles. This was the era of Genji where they were known as a slow and calculating team who would make as few mistakes as possible and bleed the enemy team out, whereas this T1 was viewed as highly aggressive and unpredictable. A super important thing to mention is that at this point, modern lane swaps are still a foreign concept for the most part. NIP had experimented with it a bit in LPL, but that was it really. At MSI 2024, we would truly see the modern lane swap take form for the first time, and lane swaps would go on to dominate the entire tournament, but we're not there yet. Any swaps you see in this game are new, fresh, and unexpected. One last point I want to mention is that while I'm up in the air on whether this game is the highest quality game we've ever seen, I'm certain about one thing, and it's that I believe this is the highest quality individual performance we've ever seen from a top laner. For 2024 spring standards, this was a pretty expected draft across the board. It was the prime of the AD mid-meta, but Faker wasn't amazing at those champs, so we opted for his classic Azir instead while Chovy went for the Corgi, and Keen would take the blind Rumble into Zeus. At the time, Aatrox was considered a good answer into Rumble. The way the matchup would go in theory is that Aatrox would win until Rumble had rushed tier 2 boots, and only then could Rumble actually play. It's a matchup that many Rumble players would not have wanted to play at the time, and one you would need a lot of skill to pilot. And again, as we get into the game, I have to stress, lane swaps were not normalized yet. This game took place right before lane swaps became commonplace. Right off the bat, Keen got to work with a brilliantly managed first 5 minutes. He took early control of the push, was able to get a ward onto owner's Krugs, and with that information, he knew he was completely safe when Zeus went for the pushback. Here, Keen would make the first decision in a long line of dominoes that would propel his team into a fantastic mid-game, and that's the decision to trade flashes with Aatrox. The reason why he did this was actually incredibly smart, and the payoff would come almost instantly. First, Keen would recall and buy swiftness boots. On paper, these boots allow him to freely juke all of Aatrox's Q sweet spots, but it serves another purpose, and that's the ability to roam around the map quickly. With the combination of Swifties and Rumble's W, he's one of the best champions at map rotations. After casting Equalizer on the wave one time to gain control of the wave, Keen would set up the greatest series of early map rotation fuckery I've ever witnessed. See, Keen also noticed something else about the lane, and it's that Zeus had committed to an early null magic mantle with the intention of going Hexdrinker to win lane. However, Rumble is the only magic damage on the side of Genji, and in what would be considered completely standard nowadays, Genji would abuse this by going for a lane swap. Kalista and Nautilus would go top, and Keen would use his tempo to cover mid while Chovy went for a recall. While this is happening, remember that Keen traded Flash with Aatrox, and Zeus, not expecting Nautilus to be there, would actually die and give over first blood.
Zeus, I think he might have an inkling.
Oh no, he's just gonna run straight at him. Zeus, no flash, no world ender, maybe no way to get out of this one as he gets pulled back, and the Ren comes through, flag forward, and Paze will pick up first blood.
Then check this out. Keen clears the mid wave and then rotates bot, which allows Chovy, who's stuck under turret in 1v2, to rotate back to mid into the matchup he wants. Then, after catching the bot wave, Keen pushes it in and recalls and runs mid lane, which allows Genji to secure grubs. Because of his presence mid, T1 have to concede the objective. The normal play here would be to hard shove bot to deny the wave, which Guma promptly attempts, but Keen, with his W and Swifties, is actually able to get back bot lane where he loses a singular melee minion of XP. So far, Keen has set up a kill top, got Chovy a reset, bailed Chovy out of a bad matchup, got his team grubs, and caught every single wave. This entire time, he's dodged out from laning against the Hex Drinker Aatrox, who himself is trapped in an unwinnable matchup against Kalista. Keen is absolutely running this early game. This next set of rotations are completely mind-boggling though, so keep up. Keen pushes in bot, and because the Drake is spawning, Genji want their bot lane back bot, so Keen resets and runs top. If you pay attention to the minimap, he gets to the crashing wave just in time to lose 0 XP. Then, Zeus, thinking he's fine to go back top with his teleport advantage since he assumes Rumble will crash the wave, walks top while Keen rotates mid. Keen shows on mid, T1 have to give up the Drake. But it's fine because Rumble dropped a top wave to be here. Except he didn't, because Keen then rotates back top, and once again is able to collect the majority of the wave, while giving Aatrox almost no time to hit the turret. It's absolutely unreal to be able to rotate mid on 2 separate timers to get your team 2 objectives, but drop this little side lane XP both times. Keen pushes in top, Paze goes top to cover him as the Kalista is again able to chill against the Hex Drinker Aatrox, while mind you, dodging out on the Draven matchup this entire time, as the Rumble goes mid to catch the mid wave. He then pushes out the mid wave, walks bot, lands a fantastic equalizer that almost gets Azir's flash. This is where he would make his one and only mistake of the entire game. He and Chovy stick around to hit the turret, and Zeus finds a teleport flank. In the ensuing chase, Keen actually ends up giving Draven a cash-in from a well-aimed ultimate from Guma, but on the bright side, 5 ultimates were blown for this kill, which means Genji are able to grab the Herald uncontested. This is a pretty big mistake for Keen to make, but he must play an amazing game if this can happen and he still gets a 10. Zeus sticks around to take bot tier 1, but Keen and Canyon see they can punish Aatrox for overstaying on the map, and they pressure him back and get their own bot tier 1. Then, with strong zoning tools, they easily pick up their second Drake. Early game is done, and now it's time to showcase another part of Keen's Rumble that makes me view this game as highly as I do, and that's his equalizers. At this point so far, I think every single one of his equalizers have been perfect, and that's not about to change. Faker's Azir ult stops the Herald from crashing on the mid tier 1, but Keen hits a beautiful equalizer across the entire enemy team, which allows Genji to go for a dive in a 5v5 situation, which results in Faker dying and the mid tier 1 going down. The next equalizer is thrown down when Canyon is engaged on while attempting to clear a ward, and this equalizer is good enough to essentially force T1 to call the entire play off. I'm unsure if T1 had anything here either way, but it's a nice equalizer nonetheless. At the 4th Drake fight, Keen has another great team fight. He's marking the Aatrox on the flank to make sure Zeus isn't effective, and then finds a great equalizer which completely zones off Faker and Owner from the fight, while simultaneously doing enough burn damage to kill Keria even after flashing away. With this great equalizer, Chovy doesn't even need to use the quirky package as Genji pick up their soul point Drake. T1 then think they have a pick on Lehens in the river, but once again it's Keen to the rescue as he uses Rocket Bell to get in range of Azir and land every single spell, resulting in 2 more kills for Genji. We don't get a perfect picture of what happens next because of a replay, but Chovy gets caught out by Guma and Keria and goes down, but Keen and Canyon work together to get Rumble a double kill, making the play a net negative for T1 overall. T1 would bite back though with the classic T1 Baron, and they would rush it down, secure the objective, and in the ensuing chase down, Lehens would go a bit too hard on the dive, which allows T1 to escape with the Baron buff and a 2 for 3 trade. Both teams set up for the 5th Drake fight, which would be Genji's Cloud Soul if they get it, and Keen has another brilliant team fight. First, he marks Aatrox on the side again, but this time there's a combo play where Chovy uses the package solo on Aatrox to surprise him and pick up the kill. Then, Keen lands another perfect equalizer into Banana Brush, sectioning off the Azir as Genji focus their energy into killing Owner. However, Owner manages to flash in and steal the Drake right before dying, which allows T1 to extend the game yet again. Then, with the momentum maybe going in T1's favor, Paze gets caught absolutely window shopping on mid lane and gives over a massive shutdown for the Draven, and we're getting to the point where this is potentially anyone's game again. Both teams posture around the Baron, which is spawning soon, and with the game dead even, Keen lands another perfect equalizer, this time sectioning off all of T1 from the Maokai, which leads to an easy Genji kill and teamfight win. Then T1 go for an absolutely psychotic call. Canyon is going for the top scuttle, and when he sees Owner walking up, he smites it. Owner knows this is his second smite charge though, and that's all the advantage T1 need to start up the Baron buff and challenge Genji to fight a 5v5. The equalizer is solid yet again, but T1 managed to get the Baron uncontested with the Maokai ult, and when the dust settles, they sacrificed 2 people for the buff. T1 are on bad tempo though, and Genji are able to pick up the Cloud Soul as a result. T1 make a really nice teleport play to pick out Chovy on side lane, and Owner is posturing to maybe look for a 5v4 collapse, but Genji are super quick on the snap engage and get Owner back to make it a 1-for-1. Crucially though, Corki is now flashless, meaning T1 have a target in future teamfights. The two teams have an extremely tense situation on mid-wave, which starts out with another fantastic equalizer from Keen, which gets Guma's flash and heal, but when Genji go to chase down for more of an advantage, Faker does a ludicrous amount of damage back and single-handedly forces everyone to stand down. Neither team is able to get any real advantage over the other, and we're going to an Elder fight. The situation starts out with Zeus getting caught bot side, and now it's a 4v5 for Genji. Keen lands, for maybe the 20th time this game, another perfect equalizer, this time right on top of Guma and Owner, which nets Genji 2 more kills. Then, just watch.
Anyway, and Genji, it looks like they have done it for game number 1. Massive divide though, and a chance here, but so much damage as Quadra comes down from the side of Faker. And that might just keep this game alive actually, as Chovy is still chasing the Poppy. The knockaway comes through and Curio will live.
What a play from Faker!
The two teams now have to square up for Elder a second time, and this time Zeus is with the team. This time would be a much more decisive victory though, as Keen lands another perfect equalizer onto 3, and Canyon leaps in to steal the Elder Drake. In what would be the final teamfight of the game, Keen deals the highest damage and picks up a triple kill, and Genji pick up their first win of the series. The series would go on to last all 5 games, and Genji would go on to win Grand Finals as well as MSI 2024. So let's take stock of what we just watched. Keen's Rumble went 8-11 and he dealt a ridiculous amount of damage, second only to Poke Corki at the height of its power. In the early game, he got Zeus to buy a matchup dependent item, and then after trading flashes, proceeded to set up everything for his team, including a kill on Aatrox, multiple perfect lane swap situations, both sets of grubs, and a Drake, while using a Swifties purchase to catch every single wave on side, and all of this before the lane swap meta, meaning this was the first of its kind and completely innovative. Then, in mid-game, every single equalizer he threw out was in the exact perfect spot needed, whether it's for zoning the enemy team or dealing the max amount of damage. I have never watched a pro Rumble game in my entire life where the equalizers were all that consistent and landed directly on that many people. Then, despite both Chovy and Paze getting picked out individually on bad timers, he was always there to clean up the mess and get something back for Genji. So, in conclusion, he orchestrated the entire early game, got his team into every favorable position they had, bailed his team out of every mistake, and played every teamfight well above what you would expect even a great Rumble to do, all while operating in a matchup that Zeus specifically counterpicked into him. I have never seen a top laner have that much influence over a game in my life, that mind you is considered by many to be the highest quality game of all time. If that's not a 10 out of 10, nothing is. For the record, these next 4 entries won't be nearly as long as this one was. In the other games, their impact is much more tangibly felt through either huge moments or massive plays, and the games also aren't so long as to go through 3 Baron buffs and 2 Elder Scuffles. However, this first game sets the precedent. It needs to be an incredibly high level game across the board, where almost everyone is on fire, and one player needs to rise above the rest to have a massive positive impact. For those requirements, I can think of one game in particular from 2025, and the only game from this year that will be in this video.
好，捷打野，捷打巨魔算是一个不错的选择。
而且捷能抓兵，
是的，
他能抓这个凯南，
加上节能代价。
2025 LPL Grand Final Spring Playoffs Game 4. The series is between BLG, an absolute behemoth of an org. In the past 3 years, they've been the best team in the LPL both domestically and internationally, and they have almost a full runback of their 2024 Grand Finals roster, with Bin, Knight, Elk, and On returning. On the other side is AL, a group of ragtag misfits who have spent the last few years on middling rosters with no real results to show for it. At the helm of this team is Tarzan, a jungler who, while great, has failed to win a single title in his life. He's come close many times, placing second in LCK 2018 Summer, 2019 Spring, and 2019 Summer, and second place in LPL 2023 Summer, 2024 Summer, and 2025 Winter. 6 attempts to add a win into his resume, and 6 times coming up short. This will be attempt number 7, and he's coming in as the underdog. AL managed to beat BLG in upper bracket finals, but this was a BLG that was rampaging through playoffs, taking dominant sweeps over other top teams, IG and top esports, and the general sentiment was that they would still win. In 2025 spring, Zed was picked a mere 3 times, and one of those was mid. It was a pick that not many believed in, and it was situational at best. Of those 3 times, Tarzan was none of them. In fact, Tarzan's all-time career record on Zed was 0 wins and 0 losses. In year 9, he had never logged a game on this pick, and in his 7th attempt to win a title, with everything on the line in game 4, he locked it in. Look at these team comps. This is not an easy game to play Zed in. There are 4 champions on BLG's side with CC, and if Zed gets hit with any of it, he's probably one-shot. On his team, his mid and bot are Galio and Varus, 2 champions that in 2025 aren't exactly known for taking over team fights on their own. This is an incredibly fragile team comp. If anything goes wrong at any point, AL will probably lose. To win this, Tarzan needs to have a perfect Zed game. As mentioned earlier, this entry will be much shorter than the Keen Rumble game. Zed's game plan is extremely simple. He's got one of the fastest clears in the game, and his job is to power farm and outpace the enemy jungler. For the first 10 minutes of the game, this is basically all that would happen. At the 10-minute mark, Tarzan was up 3 camps, and the kill score was still 0-0. He had a nice invade on Raptors once, and AL were able to pressure BLG off of grubs, but nothing substantial happened yet. The first kill of the game was honestly pretty dry. Bin is pushing too far up, and Tarzan walks up with Shanks to 3v1 the Gnar and pick up the kill. AL would give one back though, as Flandre greeted for plates topside and would get collapsed on with a teleport play. BLG would pick up the second Drake and some bot plates as well, so heading into the Rift Herald fight, the game is dead even. From here though, explaining the rest of this game is extremely simple. Tarzan would show up to each teamfight and literally just be better than everyone else. I think what I'll do is show the teamfight first in its entirety, and then we'll rewind it and go through step by step what Tarzan is doing. The next teamfight, as mentioned before, is over the Rift Herald.
Here with Mega Gnar form, and anyone's legends cannot really go for this unless they find a Miracle Steal. No, it's Beishwan that picks it up, but look at the hostile takeover from Kyle. It does so much, but anyone's legends continue to push forward, but the Trundle is so strong, and Elk with the drag back able to get a little bit back, but Hope is still alive. Hope is popping off. Tarzan is a quadra kill. One more for Beishwan. No! Hope steals it away, but it's a quad and an ace picked up for Tarzan and AL.
Let's break it down. So first, Tarzan sidesteps the Flash Recon RW. Seeing the sidestep, Knight goes for a Casio R Flash, and Tarzan predicts this and looks away just in time. He then sees On with the quickness still active move towards him, so he dodges it by ulting the Xayah and forcing out her own ult. Because Xayah is in her ult, the charm from the Recon can't be chained into anything, and knowing that Xayah will come back down, Tarzan casts W into the Casio and lands a triple Q, instantly one-shotting Knight and dealing substantial damage to Bin. Then he chunks Bin with his passive auto and predicts that Elk will go for a flash E to try and root him, so he takes his initial R Shadow back to dodge the feather pullback, and while doing so, he casts E which kills the Gnar. Then the rest of the team fight is easy, as a well-timed flash to kill the low health Xayah and Recon allows him to pick up a Quadra, and then Hope steals the Penta away by killing the no-flash Trundle, giving AL a massive ace in this mid-game team fight. There's nothing to say. Go back and watch basically anyone on BLG you want, and this was an incredibly well-fought high-level teamfight, where Tarzan literally just outplayed everyone. Next up is actually a well-coordinated play from BLG. They think they have an angle to kill both Hope and Kyle, and I think the play actually looks pretty solid.
That is scary.
Hope, no flash, that pillar had so much value, but it's a beautifully timed cleanse coming through from Kyle. It keeps the Varus alive. Tarzan's able to dive right into the back line and pick up 2 members of BLG.
This one is faster to break down, but it's still extremely impressive. I play quite a fair bit of Zed, and let me tell you, this stuff looks like it came straight out of one of those fake Chinese TikToks. W down to land some initial damage onto the Casio, then he ults the Casio right as Recon E's back to her, and then he lands, I swear you cannot script a better fake TikTok if you tried, a Sextuple Shuriken onto Knight and On, doing enough damage that he can kill On with an E and Knight with a passive auto plus R damage pop. Next up is an Otacon fight. I did mention this in my BLG team breakdown, but I believe BLG is the best Otacon team in the world, at least in 2025. The way they set it up has been consistently the best I've seen from anyone, and here with the game on the line, they decide to go for the Otacon start to force AL to fight them. Flandre is bot lane and his teleport isn't up yet, so at least for the first portion of the fight, AL will have to do it 4v5. Additionally, it's into a Xayah team, meaning BLG are heavily favored in the 50-50 due to the pullback should it come to that.
but Tarzan's in the area. I don't know if BOG want to go for Kitty just yet. Now the teleport has arrived, and it's stolen away by Tarzan. The hostile takeover for Kyle comes in as well, and AL find the advantage. The bailout is going to not save Shanks, but the fight is still begun. It is going to be going in. Petrifying gets Flandre goes in on the back line and takes down the Casio. A flashes from Flandra, and it's 2 for 1 in favor of AL.
Okay, Tarzan navigates around the feathers. He places a shadow off to the side early just in case he needs it to get out, and then he goes for the 50-50. With the passive auto smite combo, he wins it and secures the Otacon. Then, seeing Gnar about to go Mega and looking for the flank, he walks to the Gnar and zones him on his own. Then, he perfectly predicts when the Gnar will ult, snapping back to the shadow. Upon joining his team, he spaces out the quickness perfectly, W's forward to force Elk to flash away, predicts the Casio flash R and gets the look away dodge, then he takes the shadow in, contributing to the kill on Knight and allowing AL to start chasing down. Yet another brilliant fight from Tarzan, where he dodged everything and used his skills perfectly. At this point, Tarzan knows his first title is close, and he's actually just playing with his food. Easy kill onto the flashless Elk, doesn't get punished for it, Knight is caught out and dies too, then Beichuan gets chased down and the kill is gifted to Zed again. AL are in the driver's seat, and Tarzan doesn't need any more highlight plays, but sensing the win, AL start up the Baron, and he'll get to show off one more time.
Right now is BOG looking to go forward. They land the Charmer to Kyle, but Shanks is here with the hero's entrance. Big finally prompts Mega, but it's not going to be in time. Hope takes him down, and on! He's going to be targeted by the death mark. He's spinning, he's not taken down just yet. Tarzan is continuing to outplay everyone on Billy Gaming. And that title is oh so closer right now.
Simply beautiful. Double shuriken onto Knight, dodges the Rakan W with his ult, takes the shadow back to avoid being in the entire enemy team, takes his R shadow back to dodge Cassio's ult again as well as some Xayah damage, and uses the bailout to pick up the kill on both Xayah and Rakan. There's nothing to say. This was a perfect Zed game. AL win game 4 easily after this, and with it, the title. Tarzan completely carried this game from start to finish by executing the most brilliant teamfights I've seen all year, and had I made a recap for this, it would have been an easy perfect score. Dare I say that this is the best Zed game ever played, and that's with Prime Faker in mind. Maybe that's too far for some of you though, so I'll just leave it where it is.
But at the same time, even if we ignore like the lane and how the early matchup went, I think this is a champion that Doonby has shown such like an incredible amount of prowess on.
I have a question for you. What's the most dominant you've ever seen a player be in a season? What's the highest peak ever witnessed? Some people think about the classics. 2014 Dandy, any of Prime Faker's years, 2018 The Shy. Maybe you're more of a modern enjoyer and go with the likes of recent performances from Chovy, Ruler, or Keria. My personal pick though, and I have to say it's not even close for me, is 2021 Summer Doonby. A lot of people won't remember this one, or maybe some of you never even knew, because this was the year where FPX would have generationally terrible internal issues, causing them to exit in last place in their group at Worlds. This was also at a time where the English viewership for the LPL was very low, so witnesses to this historic individual split would be few and far between. For everyone who saw it with me though, we all know 2021 Summer Doonby was special. He would go on to absolutely run the entire league from start to finish, and he would do it while making the rest of the elite players look like fools. 9-2 on Viego, 10-0 on Akali, 9-0 on Sylas in a game against the prior year's world finalists where his team had just 10 kills. He dismantled the prior year's 2 seed with a 7-1 Kassadin and a 6-0 Orianna. In playoffs, he swept aside LNG with a 10-1 Aurelia game, only to one-up himself in the next round with another Aurelia game where he went 8-0-14. And these weren't his only dominant games. He was doing this week after week against every opponent on the most ridiculous champions imaginable. His most played pick that split was Kled, and his other picks included Nocturne, Gwen, Set, Lilia, Lulu, Renekton, Twisted Fate. His fundamentals were strong as well, with plenty of tremendous games on meta picks, including a whopping 20 KDA and Orianna in 4 games. Teams tried to ban him out, tried to focus him down, and they couldn't do it. This was Doonby in his mechanical prime, and he was unstoppable. There are so many games I could talk about here where he picked some bullshit you would want to dodge in a bronze lobby, only to put the entire team on his back and 1v9 against elite competition. This was in the era where LPL had won 4 of the last 6 international tournaments, and would go on to win their 5th at Worlds 2021 and 6th at MSI 2022 right after. There was no better competition at this point. LPL was the best in the world, and Doonby was, head and shoulders, the best player in the region. His nickname was Super Carry Doonby, and he was called that because he earned that title night after night. And of all of his brilliant games, I was forced to single out just one to show you all. I could gush about 2021 Doonby for hours, but I'll limit it to a few short minutes as we go over his Lee Sin mid-game against RNG who is fresh off of their MSI title. Even more than the Tarzan Z game, this looks like an impossible Lee Sin angle right from Champion Select. Gwen, Rumble, Renekton, Xayah, and Leona. That's 5 champions right there I would personally not want to lock Lee Sin into, but Doinby, not giving a rat's ass, blind picked it on R1 with jungle showing on R2 to confirm where both champions were going. As many teams would try to do this year, this was a team comp specifically built to fuck over Doinby as hard as possible, and it would be yet another failed attempt. Right away, the game would go south. Nuguri in the Jace vs Gwen matchup would get raw solo kill by Xiaohu in a pretty depressing 1v1, and FPX on the counterpunch would have their dive matched by a teleport from Cryan to make the play go 1-for-1. This is a game where RNG are happy to scale, and FPX can't afford to fall behind on these champions. At the first Drake fight, FPX would face disaster. Due to a monster engage from Cryan's Renekton, all of FPX would melt on their attempted exit from the situation, and while Doinby would land a multi-man kick and get a kill back, the fight ended in a 3-for-1 in favor of RNG. RNG would use this lead to pick up the first Rift Herald, as there were 2 Rift Heralds that would spawn during this time, and to try and get something back, Doinby and TM would go for a mid gank. And I don't know about you, but the way I see it, TM played this about as bad as possible, and Doinby essentially got the pick completely on his own. RNG would use the Herald to pressure bot lane hard and take the entire turret, which gave them a significant gold lead, and while FPX would manage to grab the second Drake, this game looks bad. Doinby plays a really nice sequence at 13 minutes though. Nuguri gets dove top lane due to a great equalizer from Wei, and he goes down. The 2 teams decide to split the map and hit adjacent turrets, trading plates. Normally the play would end here with RNG getting the slight better of the deal, but Doinby, knowing Leona isn't top anymore after spotting her reset near a control ward, makes the bold play to teleport in and go for the 1v2. In this 1v2, he manages to not only kill the Rumble, but also get Gwen's flash and save the top tier 1. TN is caught grading for a bot lane pushout though, and gives a kill back to RNG after a slow chase. Doinby is still doing his best to grab as much gold as possible, but RNG grabbed the second Rift Herald and used it to take down the mid tier 1. We're about to fight over the Soul Point Drake, so let's take stock of the situation. FPX have Lee Sin Diana as their mid jungle, which don't scale well at all. Their counterpick Jace lost lane super hard and is currently behind, and on the other side, the Gwen is snowballing. RNG's comp is extremely happy the later into the game we get, and everyone is playing pretty well. For FPX, nobody has been playing well with the exception of Doinby, and he's the only person on his team with an effective gold lead on the map. FPX have 2 Drakes, but if they lose this third one and fail to stack to that soul point, they probably lose the game. Even though Doinby is ahead, this is a hard team comp for him to play against, and he'll have to pull off a miracle if he wants to win this fight.
It does feel like RNG are just backing away a little bit too far. Doinby finds himself on the backside, but they know where he is. Now, dragging down to about 2,000 HP. They go with the Solar Flare. Doesn't land onto anybody. There's the Equalizer trying to fade him off, but it is FPX who pick up their third Dragon and Soul Point. The Moonfall is good, but look at Gala. He's just free hitting. Gala's getting all these feathers down. The Jace is dead. They're going to be able to take down the Diana as well, but Doinby picks up 2 out of nowhere, and 3 for Doinby. This man is ridiculous. He does it! For Doinby! A pentakill for Doinby! That was insane!
I just want to point out that for a brief moment, this was a 2v5 with the only members left alive for FPX being a 1/3 health Lee Sin and a low health Rel with no cooldowns. This was a fantastic teamfight, and this was the only way FPX were ever going to be able to win this game. In fact, FPX would have one more teamfight where the rest of his team all die pretty unceremoniously and he would have to essentially 1v9 it to win. Crisp would engage onto basically nobody, LWX would ult in to follow, and both of them would die while giving RNG a net positive in health actually due to their sustain. Then while Doinby was killing the Leona, Nuguri would flash into nowhere and would also die. In effectively a 1v3 situation, since TN can't do anything here, Doinby would find enough of an outplay to bring the kill score to 4-4, and Xiaohu would commit a bit of an oopsie afterwards to give TN the ace. This game is definitely in FPX's favor now, but it's not a guarantee by any means. The 4th Drake is spawning, and it's possible RNG can win if FPX don't play the teamfight well enough.
Well, Wei will have to look for the seal on this dragon first. Sonic Wave does land onto him, so the equalizer is already dead. This dragon is going down there. Ocean Soul committed to and given over to FPX with the Dianas first of all. The Renekton next to go down, but look at these low health bars. Look at LWX, look at Doinby. They're just pushing forward. They know they have the advantage here.
With another great team fight from the Lee Sin, FPX pick up the Ocean Soul, the Baron buff, and after one more team fight mid lane, Doinby's Lee Sin would pick up the win, going 11, 1, and 10. FPX would go on to win the series after stomping RNG in Game 3 with a classic Doinby collect performance, and this would be just the start of what I think is the greatest individual domestic split a player has ever had in this game. Doinby is my favorite player of all time, and I feel he goes drastically underrated by the community due to the lack of coverage of his domestic play, so I'm glad I have this video to show you all what he was capable of in his prime.
Red side was a big problem the last time that these two teams faced off. It was 5 blue side wins in a row. A lot of that was because of first pick Callistas from BLG. That's been banned by Top Esports. We have ourselves a very different bot lane matchup.
Bot lane is probably the hardest role to score super highly on out of the bunch. Due to the nature of the role, getting a lot of kills and doing a lot of damage is the expectation, and failure to meet that expectation usually results in a loss. For a bot laner to play well enough to earn a 10, they would have to go above and beyond to make it happen. Uzi has done it many times. I could easily show you an Uzi game from his prime if I wanted to, and I could call it a day. But people know Uzi is a brilliant player already, and I want to shine a spotlight on a newer face who I think people don't know just how insane he is. That player is Elk, and the reason why I think people might not know how high his ceiling gets is because his best games have always been domestic. That's not to say he's bad internationally or anything, but even in his best international games, he doesn't look nearly as good as he does in his best domestic games, and since most of the English community doesn't watch LPL, most people haven't seen it, and are sometimes left scratching their head when Elk comes in touted as one of the best in the world at every tournament. The game I've chosen to highlight is LPL 2024 Spring Grand Finals, BLG vs Top Esports Game 1, and Elk's Lucian in this game is proof that a marksman does in fact have the ability to completely take over a game and 1v9 if the player is confident and cocky enough to pull it off. The start of the game is nothing too special. Lucian Nami are able to push in Senna TK as one would expect, and BLG set up for a dive after Maokai's first full clear. The dive is a 1-for-1, with Elk picking up the kill on the side of BLG. After this though, Top Esports would begin to take the lead. After getting the first Drake with relatively no trouble, the two teams meet up topside to fight for the grubs. Elk has a very good calling to kick off the fight, and forces out 369's flash right away. From here, Top Esports would command the back half of the fight, but it's very important to note, I don't think Elk does anything wrong here. He's trying to burst down the target that Shonen aggressively flashed forward for, and while the rest of his team dies, he actually manages to get the kill and trade 1-for-1. I think Elk actually played this quite well, but the initiators played the situation too fast. With BLG in this hole, and with the enemy team having an Azir Senna, it looks pretty hopeless from a scaling perspective. Top Esports easily pick up the second Drake, and it's looking like it should be a fairly simple win for them. It should be noted that nobody on BLG apart from Elk looks great. Knight goes for a top play where he actually mistimes his shove with the Maokai ult and fails to get a kill on Senna, and On has a play where he wastes flash for no reason. BLG looks shaky and Top Esports look confident. Elk is still trying his best though, and he does what Lucian needs to do in these moments by trying to play as aggressively on mid-wave as possible. This play at 16 minutes may look like nothing, and this specific attempt doesn't net the team anything, but this is the right mindset for Lucian to be in, and if he continues to play this aggressive, an opportunity may present itself. Top Esports pick up the third Drake, and it's looking like BLG are on a timer. At 20 minutes, Elk sees an opportunity that I don't think many other players would ever go for. He wants to play for the low health mid turret, and all I can really call this is that he expertly brute forces his way in until that turret goes down. A fantastic dash forward and culling chunk out the TK and Senna, then with some nice river vision, he perfectly baits in Viego and Azir to use their mobility spells in a failed attempt to pick him out. Then with the help of his team's ultimates, they use 4 of them to push Top Esports out and pick up the mid tier 1. This is a play that only someone like Elk could go for, and it works because his movement is perfect. At the Soul Drake, Top Esports actually have position and are in a good spot. Elk, knowing he needs to do something, lands an absolutely disgusting culling that forces Azir back and chunks Senna for 80% of her health, and this initiative is what BLG needed to force their way into the pit. Top Esports is strong though, and they managed to continue to make it a 50-50 standoff over the Drake. As Shun walks into the pit, Cream sees an angle to engage and goes for it, but Elk is able to flash over the Azir ult as Shun steals the dragon, stalling the game out a bit longer. Look at Elk here. He has no fear at all as he steps up and chunks Jackie Love mid lane for most of his health again. It looks simple, but I promise you, it takes guts to go for it on Lucian like this, especially with flash down. Again, nothing really comes from this, but it's the mindset that counts. This mindset nets him a kill at 25 minutes, as Jackie Love walks up to a bush thinking he's safe because of the TK ult, but the Talia shove is good and he gets one shot by Lucian before getting saved. BLG turned this into a mid tier 2, and somehow, with these comps, the game still looks even. Look at how Elk plays this bot tier 2 attempt. BLG won't end up getting the turret here, but it's so beautiful watching how on the edge this Lucian is playing to output maximum damage. BLG actually does commit a pretty big screw up on the next play, and it doesn't look pretty from Elk, but I honestly don't know what he could have done here. Sure, it looks silly that he ults in the wrong direction, but it wouldn't have mattered where he ulted regardless, and it still looks pretty unsurvivable. The only crime he committed here was trusting the engage from his jungler, which is obviously pretty terrible. Top Esports turned this into a Baron, but BLG get the Drake off the reset, so the game still isn't quite over. 369 solo kills Bin on the Baron push, which ends up turning the Baron into a massive positive gold swing for Top Esports, but BLG managed to keep it together until the next Drake spawns, and this is where Elk plays one of the best Lucian sequences I've ever seen in my life. His flash is back up, and he's confident he can step forward. This is the ultimate limit test. Dashes into the entire enemy team and rips a Culling in their face. Sidesteps the Senna W while using it. Dashes directly into Azir's face to deal more damage, challenging him to engage, and when Cream bites, he's ready to flash the Azir ult and continue pumping damage. Tien tries to engage from the flank, but Elk instantly cleanses the stun and fires back onto Viego, and he gets his flash and ult. Fantastic sequence, I could watch this all day. Nobody dies, but what this Herculean effort from Elk did was give BLG access to the Drake pit for the 50-50. He burned his flash and his ult for this, but his part is done. Lucian did everything he could to give his team the opportunity to win, and now the rest is on his teammates. In the standoff, Top Esports actually take the Drake and get the Cloud Soul, but the rest of BLG rally together and play for the team fight. After some heroics from Bin and Tien, the fight goes completely haywire and ends in a 4-for-3 in favor of BLG. Again, I want to stress that I believe Elk did everything humanly possible to get his team in any kind of playable position, and this fight win only occurred because of what Elk did to get his team into the pit to begin with. With this fight win, BLG managed to take the Baron, and now it's their turn to siege. It's Deja Vu on the bot tier 2, but this time Elk has a Baron, and his flash just came up. I'm not kidding, by the way, his flash literally comes up like 3 seconds before this turret attempt. Watch how he plays this. Again, absolutely no fear, dashes into the enemy team's face on his own, and challenges them to engage while pumping max damage with the Culling. Top Esports were brave enough to meet his challenge the first few times, but with him expertly mechanically outplaying them before, they finally backed down in fear. I have full confidence that had they tried to engage, Elk would have outplayed them with his flash yet again. This Culling nets BLG 2 turrets and 2 inhibs, and now even with Cloud Soul, Top Esports are the ones on the back foot. This time, it's the top tier 2. BLG have no Baron this time, but guess what? Top Esports weren't brave enough to trade flashes last time, and that means Lucian still has flash, no Baron buff needed. He dashes forward underneath the turret and rips another Culling, this time doing enough damage that it gets TK's flash and nets BLG the tier 2. Everywhere Elk goes, he's exerting his pressure and forcing Top Esports to give him some kind of advantage. Cream, realizing they'll bleed out if he never tries to go in, attempts a crazy engage, but everyone on BLG is ready and they shrug it off with Elk's flash and a good Nami ult. Elder Drake is spawning, and this time Elk has no flash. This means the team fight should be harder for him, right? Well, watch how he navigates it. Chunks Tien super hard, gets Cream to commit, spaces it out, hits Azir with a full Culling, practically killing him. Then, despite Shun going down from BLG and nobody on Top Esports dying, they're forced to give up the space as Elk is on a one-man mission to take the Elder. Look at this back half. Top Esports are throwing everything they have at the Flash's solution, but Elk's movement is way too good and they can accomplish nothing. 4v5, no flash, no jungler, it's BLG who have full position over the Elder. One more teamfight where Elk expertly dodges out on the engaged threats from Top Esports, and in a 7k damage trouncing, BLG win this teamfight, the Elder, and the game. BLG would go on to win this series, and they would make it all the way to MSI Grand Finals before being stopped by Gen G. For those curious, Elk did 77,000 damage in this game, with the next closest player being over 20k damage behind him. While the KDA may not reflect the performance he had, Elk was completely 1v9 in this game. Bin, Shun, Knight, and On all made multiple costly mistakes, and through it all, Elk was holding it together. If he had flash up, he was in Top Esports' face and forcing them to engage on him or lose, and when his flash was down, he played perfectly to his limits and still output the maximum damage possible without dying. I've never seen a Lucian game this clean prior, and I haven't seen one since. There are other great Lucian players out there, but this game stands clear in my mind as the best Lucian game of the bunch.
Zyra, lots of things pushed around.
There's also go Ashe support as well. We've seen it from players like Mako. If they want to just flex this to support and pick up an AD carry here, no, they're going to go Ashe Lux into Heimerdinger Varus. Maybe they think they can get a little bit of push. They have a lot of follow-up and a lot of...
There's one more game left to go, and I still have one thing I want to prove with these 10s. A big part of my rating philosophy is that I try to rate players based on how much they contributed to their team's chances to win, and I try to do it with as clear of a mind as possible regardless of how the other players around them are playing. In theory, what this means is that it's possible to get a 10 out of 10 and still lose the game. If you're playing out of your mind and winning your team the game on numerous occasions, but your team is simply inting too hard, or if the enemy team is simply playing too well as a unit, it's possible to play a perfect game and still lose. This last game is exactly that, a loss where I awarded a player on the losing team a 10. This is a game many of you probably already know very well, and I'm sure there are plenty of memories associated with it. Worlds 2022 Grand Finals, T1 vs DRX, Game 2, Keria's Lux. This is the greatest Lux game ever played, by a significant margin, but T1 weren't able to pull together a win. In my eyes, Keria is the greatest support of all time, and this stands as one of the games on his Mount Rushmore when I think about his best moments. Let's take a look at how Keria was once elo held by his entire team on the biggest stage. Something you need to understand is that despite Lux being perceived as an easy champion by solo queue standards, she's a ridiculously difficult champion to make useful on the pro stage. Her basic ability cooldowns are long, her utility is limited, and when you draft her, the expectation is that you get ahead in some capacity. There are very few players who can pull off a good Lux, and it's one of the main reasons why we rarely see it. For the first 10 minutes of this game, nothing really happens. Both bot lanes are built for pushing power, and the two teams trade push depending on whose jungler is in the area. Both teams move up to fight for the first Herald, but T1 managed to take control of the space and get it without any blood being shed. From this point onwards though, Keria is the one who dictates the rest of this early game. DRX see an angle to fight Owner and Zeus 3v2 and they go for it. The start of the fight looks good for them as they deal considerable damage to both of them and force them back. Keria though, who is initially mid to help Faker get the push, cancels his recall to walk top and try to salvage the play. He's there in time, lands a great root onto Kingen to secure the initial first kill, and when DRX make the call to commit anyway for Viego resets, Lux hits an E-snipe to secure the third kill just in time and save what could have been a disastrous situation for T1. Then, 1 minute later, Keria makes the call to go for a crazy dive. Guma ults, it hits Varus, Keria is able to chunk him out a lot. Any normal support would say this is good enough, and use the chunk to push in the wave and maybe hit a plate or two. But Keria is no normal support, and he sees a psychotic angle that to this day I myself cannot comprehend until I watch it happen right in front of my face. Keria continues to walk forward, through a Heimer turret, and lands an E onto Heimer to slow him. With this slow, he flashes diagonally to line up a two-man root onto both the Heimer and the Varus, then he stopwatches the return damage from the Varus ult Blight stacks, which would have certainly killed him, and this sets up Owner to leap in and secure the kill onto Varus. His play topside was already crazy enough, but this? Come on, we've never seen a player do something like this before. The play continues with Faker kind of running it down a bit but managing to trade 1-for-1 with Heimer, but this entire time there's a bot wave dying to turret that nobody on DRX is able to collect. Zeus is then caught topside and ends up going down, but Keria is there on the rotation, and with a combination of Ashold and Graves damage, they manage to get one back and crash the Herald for some more gold. It's nothing insane from Lux this time, but it's good presence of mind to be there and contribute something. T1 are now up 3k gold and have a 6-2 kill score. They've taken both the Herald and the Drake, and they should be in prime position to win the game off of Keria's 100% kill participation. Keep in mind that Keria did all of this in 3 minutes. This might be the most active 3 minutes I've seen from any support ever. This is where T1 start collapsing a bit. Faker gets caught top right before the second Herald spawns, and Zeus, in an attempt to salvage the play, also goes in too aggressively and dies. Keria isn't in the area, and even if he was, there's nothing he could have done to stop this. DRX get 2 easy kills and take the second Rift Herald, and the game is looking a bit closer. Faker makes the decision to take the top tier one when the Drake spawns, so DRX are able to pick up that objective too. They spawn the Herald mid and look to crash, and T1 lose their minds yet again. Owner is in a terrible spot and gets hit with a Heimer ult stun that gives over his shutdown, and then Zeus gets completely mind controlled by Beryl and flashes into a wall and kills himself as the mid tier 1 goes down. Now it's 6-6 and the gold is dead even. Once again, there is nothing Keria could have done here. He watches his team take the entire advantage he spoon-fed them and spit it back out onto the ground. Then, Faker trolls again by teleporting to the bot tier 1 and getting dove instantly. His build is Crown of the Shattered Queen, Zhonya's, and Ionian boots by the way. No comment, just wanted to point that one out. I'll have much more to say about this game when I do that T1 vs DRX revisit video, but for now, just know that Faker isn't having too hot of a game. Now, T1 are literally just losing. DRX has taken all of the outer turrets, they have the Drake lead, and the gold is even in their favor. T1's comp doesn't outscale at this rate, and it'll take an insane effort to pull this one back. DRX grab the third Drake easily, they have full vision control everywhere. T1 can do nothing to fight back. A teamfight breaks out mid, and Keria plays it as best as he can. Deft flash ults Victor, but Keria is there for the Mikhail's Crucible, and Faker is able to stopwatch before the damage comes through. Then, with no vision and pure intuition, Keria sniffs out Zeka's flank angle and blocks it off with his spells. T1 limp out with no casualties somehow, and got flash out of 3 members of DRX. The Soul Drake is spawning in 1 minute. At the Drake, T1 actually have setup, and they're the ones who start it. Again, Keria, understanding the enemy team's win condition, pulls off his team to search for the Camille who's missing on the map. He spots the flank and roots Camille, which gives his team much needed time to secure the dragon. Guma and Owner aren't so lucky to get out and go down anyway, but Keria lands a huge ult onto 3 people, which knocks off Kingen's GA and forces Pioshik to use stopwatch. Off of the stopwatch, Keria hits a perfectly timed Q to get the root, and his team is able to kill Viego over the wall. Then he flashes back, anticipating an engage, and sidesteps not only a lethal Varus Q, but also a flash Sylas E before landing a root onto the Sylas. The flank is too strong from DRX though, and they slow chase down the Victor and Aatrox, killing them both as well, and Keria, not wanting to give over a 5th kill, settles for the execute to turret. T1 get the Drake which denies the soul, but they get completely wiped. Keria played this fight excellently and got T1 every advantage they ended up with, but it simply wasn't enough. DRX get the Baron and push down, and heading into the 6th Drake fight, they still retain the advantage. Pyosik has a potentially huge flank angle, and T1, even more so than last time, need an insane teamfight to even have a chance. Against all odds, Keria gives them that chance. His E barely clips into the bush Pyosik is waiting in, and before Pyosik even realizes he's been spotted, Keria flash roots him, and then in order to stall time for his team, he lands the Everfrost over the wall after Pyosik tries to ult away, rooting him a second time. DRX desperately try to burst down the Drake while T1 are chasing Pyosik, but Owner arrives just in time to flash into the pit and smite it, and somehow, someway, due to Keria's heroics, the game is back in T1's hands. At the soul fight, nothing too notable happens for Keria. He does his job well, zoning Camille off of the flank, and Owner wins the clutch 50-50 smite to secure T1 the soul. While Keria ends up dying to Camille in his effort to stall her out, T1 is able to kill Zeka, and they make out with the soul while trading 1 for 1. T1 should win this game now. Keria is dead, but he did what he needed to do. But if there is a more poetic way for this game to end, I don't know what it is, because it would be this one time when Keria is dead, the first time he actually died to a champion this game, where T1 as a 4-man unit would throw the entire game. Keria can do nothing but sit and watch as T1 start a Baron. Faker gets hit by a dry Verisol and loses his entire health bar before using Zanya's, and that's it. T1 lose 3 on the Baron and trade for the support of DRX, and the game is over. Keria moved heaven and earth to single-handedly win his team the game on multiple separate occasions, but the instant they don't have him, the game ends in their loss. While I could spend time bashing the 4 members of T1 not named Keria for this game, that's for a different video, and here I want to put the spotlight on how amazing of a Lux game Keria just played. He ended the game with the highest kill participation of anyone, and every single one of those takedowns were earned through his blood, sweat, and tears in one of the most impossible uphill climbs I've seen a single player go through. The fact that he lost this game after that effort is a crime against humanity, but the least I can do is retroactively award him a perfect score for his attempt. And with that, that's it. 5 separate 10 out of 10 games, 1 for each role. My main goal today was to show you all what I thought the pinnacle of League of Legends was, and I hope I managed to accomplish that. There are many other games I could point towards that would be deserving of this ranking. All-time greats like Faker, The Shy, Canyon, Uzi, and many more have plenty of 10s to go around if you search hard enough for them. There was even another one this year in Chovy's Twisted Fate against HLE in the Road to MSI playoffs that barely didn't make the cut for this video. Regardless, I think you all might understand a bit better now why I'm so hesitant to give out a perfect score to great games. By holding on to this 10 and saving it, the moments where it does actually happen, when I can give out the 10 with no regrets, those games are the ones that are unforgettable moments in history that stand head and shoulders above the rest. I have nothing against giving out 10s. In fact, if I had it my way, I would love to be able to give them out all the time. All that needs to happen is for that special performance to be put onto the Rift, and when it finally does, you can bet I'll be there to appreciate it. But there's actually a rating I give out less than 10s, another rating so rare that it also didn't show up at Worlds 2025. But this is one a player never wants to receive. The infamous 0 out of 10. It's possible. It's happened. And the games are out there just waiting to be shown off. If you all enjoyed this video showcasing the pinnacle of League, let me know in the comments. If this video gets enough traction, I might find it in me to show another dark, sinister, twisted version of this video, where I show you all the absolute worst pro performances of all time as well. That's everything I have for you for this one. Let me know in the comments which of these 5 games was the most impressive to you. I have a Patreon for people who want to support me more while I'm making these videos. There are 3 tiers, each with varying amounts of benefits, including different types of behind-the-scenes content, and even a custom Poro drawing that I'll display in video outros. If that interests you, check out the Patreon link in the description. I'll see you all for the next one. Bye!